So maybe this gets rolling in August, and then we head into the fall. But in the fall, people here are still going to be paying attention to budget, to the spending items we were talking about earlier, to the great fiscal debate. It's a little unclear to me, though, whether the debate this fall in Congress is going to be about how much do we spend or do we raise the debt ceiling, because both those things are going to butt heads this fall, or whether those two things get intermingled. What's your guess?
Well, the spending question comes first because the fiscal year ends on September 30th, and Congress is nowhere close to passing the spending bills they need to keep the government open. So they're going to have to come to grips with that at least in a short-term way. And then the debt ceiling is a little less certain when they actually drop dead have to raise the debt ceiling, but it is definitely after September 30th. So eventually they probably get conflated. Obama and the Democrats are coming back with their argument, though they are not going to negotiate over raising the debt ceiling. The Republicans are coming back with their argument that somehow any increase in the debt ceiling has to be matched with some spending cuts or fiscal austerity. It does feel to me, though, like right now, the will to have a big, default-threatening fight over the debt limit isn't there for the Republicans. They didn't much win from that, and so the spending questions actually seem a little bit more difficult to untie,
and maybe more relevant to what's really going to happen this fall.
Right. I mean, we do have a second round of sequester cuts coming in. Everybody fought about the sequester the first time as if that was the only debate. Well, there's like 9 more years of across-the-board spending cuts that nobody's figured out how to undo, and as a result, they're going to have to write bills to some very stringent limits. Now, unfortunately, the House and Senate have picked different overall spending targets, so they're writing bills that don't match up. So nobody really knows
and they're off
what
by
the mechanism.
Not a little, but by a lot.
Yeah,
right? The Republican target.
Yeah, almost 100 billion. So, and just the spending priorities are skewed. It's actually a perfect image of the differences between the parties, which is that the Democrats plussed up all of the domestic accounts and set an overall higher target. The Republicans crunched down the overall spending and also put all of the cuts in domestic programs and kept the Pentagon whole. So there's a lot of hashing out to do.
This is why we have two parties, I guess.
Yeah, but neither one of them are really looking at cutting and spending on entitlement. It's all about the other part of the budget.
Right.
So if you're trying to predict whether there's going to be either a debt crisis or a government shutdown crisis this fall, how do you bet?
You know what? I bet that neither happen. Neither. You don't shut down the government and you don't go in default. I mean, I think everybody's
get close to either of those scenarios.
Closer to a government shutdown than default.
Right. But it's hard. The president's in a bad position because, as you pointed out, Jerry, the speech he gave has a fairly ambitious agenda for federal spending and what he calls investments, and those are the very things that the Republicans are cutting.
Right. I mean, there's both House and Senate are going to be debating the same bill on the floor next week. It's the transportation and housing bill, and it's the perfect contrast because it has a lot of the kind of investment sort of programs, housing and transportation and community development, big plus up on the Senate side, and the House really kind of turns the screws on it.